Hello, welcome to the second podcast of Startup Recruitment Failures. I am Indra, founder and CEO of JobRely. We're building outbound recruitment SaaS. And today my special guest is Vytautas Kaziukonis, founder and CEO of SurfShark. SurfShark has recently merged with NordVPN and became a unicorn. Hi, Vytautas.
Hi, Indra. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you for your time. And my first question would be, so how does it feel when you're made it and are not a struggling startup anymore?
It's a weird feeling. On one hand, we're grateful that actually we managed to achieve that. On the other hand, part of me is still kind of like denying this and trying to find all the possible bad cases of what's how it's gonna change from now on, because it brings more responsibilities, new challenges we have never faced. So it's a double-edged sword, celebrations, but at the same time cautious awareness of what's ahead of us.
What challenges do you have in mind? What's going to change?
Well, first of all, obviously there are investors who joined us, so how that dynamic will play out, how we will manage to all work together and meet everyone's expectations. There's more pressure onto us to deliver and continue, doing what we've been doing so far. Also, moving past that, also the mindset and actually growing even further when we are already quite a decent company, and new approaches need to be found, which is the old formulas which we applied don't necessarily work at that scale anymore. So there's a lot of unknowns ahead.
I see. I totally understand that when you gain more responsibility, it's not always a joy. You have to work sometimes even more. But I'm very glad to hear about this success, because I remember I was the first employee you hired when you started building this team. And we managed, to start a really great story of SurfSharks. So talking about recruitment, could you share with us your recruitment failures?
Well, the first failure, I think that the biggest one and the only one I regret to this day is actually letting you go, Indra. I think that's that was the biggest one, because and to the listeners, Indra has been amazing at the start and actually put the foundation for the team who actually managed to get to this phase. So all the management of SurfShark was basically brought in by Indra one way or the other. So, and super thankful for your efforts then. And life has, of course, moved on, and our ways have separated somewhat professionally. But I will be always thankful for your period then when you worked so hard then. So that's my
Thank you so
biggest
much.
recruitment failure. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, for me it was the same. I learned so much, and now building my own startup, it's amazing experience we had.
Yeah, I agree.
What other failures? Were there any?
One thing I learned later down the line, not in the early days, that I was always, and I'm still am a very gut feeling person, if you know what I mean. As in, I hire people and then I try to use my sixth sense or whatever. Like, is this person actually the right person to be with us? And initially I thought it's some kind of I have this, I don't know, a gift or whatever, that I can read people well and see whether they are actually who they are. But when we had so many people getting hired, what I found out later on is actually it's the processes and good structural hiring methods, which I'm sure you know very well, how to ask the right questions, how to identify particular traits of people, so they fit together, is actually more important than your gut feeling. Gut feeling is like horoscopes. It's just okay. There is a place for that, but you definitely need more data, additional data, which we haven't used in the early days. Now we are much more structural, procedural. So even though gut feeling is one of the inputs into the decision whether a person should be hired or not, but there's more now inputs on, okay, so he's a particular personality type, his track record is XYZ, there's multiple data points you can gather to make a decision. So those initial hires were, while majority were turned out to be amazing people, I think we could have had even a better success rate if we maybe implemented some of those processes earlier than
Mhm.
we did.
Okay. But when it comes to selecting the most suitable candidate, it's still then it's a gut feeling, right? You're choosing. So all of the candidates on paper look similar, right? Senior, experienced, and you cannot find many differences. So then it's the feeling who you could really work with, who is the most matching your company's culture and values, and etc. But have you ever had the situation that everything looks great on paper? You used all the processes as they supposed to be, but your gut feeling said that no, maybe that person is not like-minded like our team, so there could be some mismatch.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said in the beginning, my I still use that gut feeling a lot, although I try to supplement it with additional data nowadays. But I was directly involved with at least 100 people who were
Hmm.
hired. So you can multiply it by I don't know 10. So it will be about 1,000 candidates. I remember quite a few actually when the person would, as you said, have all the right ticks, and it's especially difficult with marketing type of people, I think,
Hmm.
because when the person goes to an interview, right, it's basically it's sales. It's
Yeah.
how the person presents themselves, how they write their CV, how they tell the story, and some are better than others, but
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily correlate with with reality. I remember one which had all the right ingredients for that position, and on paper he looked so good that we actually hired him without even doing the proper procedures, like testing for
Hmm.
particular skills, because we felt that we would kind of like even offend the person in that we would doubt his ability to do those basic tasks or language skills or whatever. What
Hmm.
happened was, 6 months later, when the results were not there and we were questioning everything, like, there must be a product market fit problem, there might be a particular approach problem, or something else. It turned out to be a very simple language barrier problem, that the person,
Hmm.
which looked on paper super senior with international experience, with big track record of getting big clients, etc., had struggles with basic English skills, and in those sales calls he would be unable to communicate, and the clients would not understand his language. So this was a big recruitment failure, that we decided, that okay, let's just skip this process because this person is too senior, which was a mistake on our end.
Yeah, this is always what really interests me because from your case, you didn't want to offend the person by checking the references. There are some other cases that you don't want to spread the news that that person is open, and maybe the other company, like previous employer, would go after that candidate too, and you will lose a chance to hire, and so very many other reasons. And yeah, we really sometimes make a mistake by not checking the references and not sometimes knowing in advance the very obvious thing as a English
Yeah,
language skills, for example.
just because he says that he's on his CV that his English language skills are excellent
Mm,
doesn't necessarily mean that, and again, it's not an offense just to ask and just to talk 5 to 10 minutes in English, and
exactly.
yeah, but then but it was, it was a costly mistake for us because
Hmm.
it took us so long, and only after 6 or maybe 8 months, we when we actually finally decided to record some of those conversations, we realized what was happening. So other than that, the person is amazing person in that regard. He just maybe oversold himself a little bit, which tends to be
Hmm.
with marketing type personalities. Yeah, and we paid quite a big price there.
But this is so interesting. So he had to talk in English with potential clients, and he didn't know the language, and he managed to hide this for half a year.
Yeah, so that's another thing is when you hire a very senior person, and that was at the time when I was trying to recognize my traits, that okay, I need to trust people more. I need to for them to be more sustainable on their own. So
Hmm.
and it was a very busy period at that stage, and I was not actually managing him directly, and I was assuming because he's such a senior person that usually. it was quite a complicated product, so it was natural that okay, at least 3 to 4 months is basically preparation and getting things rolling, etc. And all the other parts of the process were working well. Everything about how the documentation was being prepared, etc. The presentations, everything was okay. So the only part which was failing was actual conversions, like basically the actual calls with the clients, which only he would attend.
Mhm.
So we were looking in all kinds of like ways of okay, maybe the presentation is bad.
Mhm.
Maybe there's something wrong with product market fit. Maybe the client base we are targeting the wrong people. After, as I said, after 6 months, I said, okay, maybe let's try to record some of those conversations. It was by the way, I think COVID times, so we were not sitting next to each other. So
Oh, so
finally,
he was working remotely, right?
yeah, yeah. So I was
Mhm.
finally said, okay, maybe let's try recording those calls and let's see what's happening. So that was when we realized this is the elephant in the room. We missed it totally, which would have been saved by a simple check at the recruitment no process.
But looking from his perspective, so what was he expecting if he cannot talk to clients and he's still trying to do that? So, what kind of the results he was expecting to achieve by this?
Well, I think it's a matter of perspective of what acceptable language skills are, and I think in
Mm.
his mind he had a reasonable understanding of language, and this is where we disagreed when we listened to to the conversations. I don't think he on his own thought that it is a problem.
But finally, did he admit?
Yes, he after we had conversations that okay, do you think that this is this could be a problem, etc. He agreed to that, and that we are friends to this day. It's no hard feelings. I think it's very important to be open and about when things don't work out. And yeah, it's other than that, he's a super great person. I have nothing but good things to tell about him. It's just in this case, I honestly think that he did not believe it to be a problem, and on our part, we failed to do a basic check.
Yeah, exactly. And this basic check could also help, could have helped not only for you, but for that person himself, because sometimes you cannot evaluate yourself because you're very subjective, right? You're not objective about yourself. And when there's someone else, like a recruiter or interviewer, advising you on something, maybe not to choose a position where you have to use a perfect fluent English language. So maybe this is helping him now, this experience, to
Yeah,
understand better.
yeah,
Mm.
I agree.
Great. So, what would be your key takeaways? What would you advise other startup founders from having this many thousand interviews?
Yeah, I think yes, two things, and it's different sides of the same coin. But trust your gut feeling. Yes, you will need it. You will need to to learn to listen to your inner voice when you are feeling that something is not right. But at the same time, the other side of the coin is try to add additional inputs into the recruitment process, which would help to justify your decisions, because without those it is a big struggle. Like it tortures you inside that okay, maybe this guy or this guy, but sometimes you have you have no gut feeling for three candidates, right? And they all seem to be great one way or
Hmm.
the other. And then you have maybe some kind of like a test or task or feedback from another company, or there's quite a few things you can think of. Then it makes the choice easier. Another thing is, which I used, and Yundre can remember as well, if you take your sights onto a particular candidate or you think is worthy of joining you, never ever give up. And
Hmm.
this is very very often a mistake of people who started hiring. They say, oh, the person said no, so we moved on.
Hmm.
No, it's when the person said no, this is when only now the recruitment started. So
Okay.
I had some of the people I managed to recruit Surfshark. It took me 10 meetings, maybe 12 meetings. I would
Yeah.
talk to them for hours. I would take 3 4 no's, and I'd still try to find what is the reason, what is their concern, etc. So never ever give up, because the person who is actually on the other side will appreciate this. If they see and if they feel that you're actually serious about it, you're really chasing them, etc., they will feel important and they will more likely accept, joining you.
Yeah, I remember that the product owner said no 5 times, if I recall correctly,
Mm,
and CMO 7 times. So yeah,
yeah,
no is not an answer
yeah,
for SurfShark.
yeah.
Great, thank you, Vytautas, so much for your time and for sharing your story.
Thank you, Andrea.
And thank you to all the listeners. For more podcasts, please visit javrli.com.